we're going to move on now, and thanks very much, guys. Really, really insightful and tons of good knowledge shares there. So thanks very much. So we'll just take a quick look at poll results and jump into the questions. I'm sure there's plenty of questions.
Okay, thanks, Kenneth. So the first question we asked on the poll was, does your organization offer an MDF program to partners? So as you can see, 76% said yes. And for the 24% who don't currently, hopefully you got some useful tips and hints from the panel today.
Great stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we ran a similar poll a couple of years ago and it was probably 50-50. So definitely MDF is growing.
Okay, the next poll question then was, for those of you offering MDF programs to partners, what is it, 37% offer proposal-based, 23% accrual, and 40%, I think it is, a mixture of the two. So just while we have that up on the screen, I will put a question to the panel, because this is one of the ones that came in, and this came in from Kristen, sorry. As a general best practice, do you recommend accrual-based or proposal-based MDF programs?
Yeah, Ryan, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I might be biased slightly because we run a proposal-based program, and I do think and believe that it does offer greater flexibility to not only to Extreme, to us as a business, but also, of course, to the partners and the distributors. What we like to say is that, you know, in theory, any partner who comes to us with a good, solid business and marketing plan, we're open to investing MDF dollars with you. You know, and that's that can be quite a powerful thing for the local channel and marketing teams to have in their back pocket. You don't need to have established run rate business with Extreme in order to receive MDF dollars. So I think that's the easiest, sorry, not the easiest, but the best way. I guess if I was to be critical of it, what it can lead to, because the requirement is perhaps lower, as in you don't need to be having that run rate business with a vendor, we try to catch it out and we rely on our marketing teams to sort of vet the marketing campaigns and ideas. But you may see a tendency towards spending because the barrier is lower than if it were an accrual. If it was an accrual, partners perhaps would say that this is my money that I've earned, so I will be a bit more careful with it. But I think we very rarely, if ever, see that kind of behaviour. I think the benefits of proposals still outweigh the potential negatives.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Ryan. So the next question then was in relation to the percentage of your channel partners that participate in the actual programs. So are the results coming through there? Yep, so you can see 48% said less than 25%, 10% are saying between 25 and 49%, 16% between 50 and 75%, 4% on more than 75%. So congratulations to those guys.
Yeah, and it is a challenge, you know, it's always a challenge to get participation. You know, James alluded to some of it earlier, some partners, you know, aren't able to do, or not able is the wrong word, they're just not skilled up to do it. Others, we don't necessarily want to do it, etc. So yeah, it's, you know, I would have expected a little bit higher, to be honest, and on participation rates, but that's, you know, a lot of companies don't offer MDF to only the top tier partners, so they're, you know, therefore the percentages are going to be lower.
Okay, I'm going to throw in a question to the panel here then from Melissa, which kind of relates to this, I think, and I think it's a really good question. We offer MDF to our partners, but we still find they're struggling to use those funds. They don't have the marketing engine like some of the larger partners. How can you entice your partners to use the funds?
So James, do you want to have a go at that one?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think you know, it goes back to some of the points we've raised about you do want to try and make it easy for partners, and ultimately, not all partners are going to be right to be allocating MDF dollars to. There needs to be a desire and a real want from the partner's perspective to actually work with the vendor on a program. But I think what you can do is look at designing activity types and campaigns that have the ability to be tailored and customized to fit a partner and their capabilities and what they can bring to the table, or tailored and customized based on geography. But I think you can certainly give partners the ability to make it easy by giving them options, I guess, to build on. Other things to consider, and I know a lot of vendors do this already to some extent, is provide marketing concierge services so that a partner can work with the marketing manager from the vendor, or DISTI for that matter, and a specialist agency that has been approved and understands your business, that can design an activity with the partner and execute it on their behalf. I think there's lots of things you can do to make it easier for a partner to kind of feel, hang on, we haven't got the resource, the knowledge, the confidence to be able to run a campaign, but we are very good at winning business and looking after customers. So we've got a lot to offer there, and I think it's just about providing those building blocks for them, or a full marketing concierge service where it's managed on their behalf, if you like.
Thanks, James. And Melissa actually had a follow-up, and seeing as you kind of mentioned concierge services, she asks, what agency would you recommend for a concierge service?
Gosh, that's a really good one. Well, apart from Pure Channels, of course. I think it really depends on the type of activity, and finding agencies that are a good fit for that activity, and also looking at regional agencies. I think, yes, there may be some merit in having a handful of global agencies. Maybe gives you some bargaining power and economies of scale, etc. But it does make sense to look at partnering with agencies that have real expertise and knowledge of local markets and partner communities. So I think it's a case of looking at agency capability in terms of activity type, and also their capability and expertise at a local level, particularly if you are a global vendor and you're offering an MDF program across the globe.
Okay, thanks, James. So the next poll question then was just in relation to the challenges companies face when managing their MDF. So as you can see, 68% was an inability to measure the return on investment, 36% time-consuming and resource-intensive, 61% lack of visibility of performance, and then 25% difficult to accurately target the desired audience. Any kind of thoughts on that from the panel?
I think we kind of alluded to a lot of this already, and it's no surprise that the 2 and the 60s stand out, and honestly, it does come down to the thought process on the activities you offer. How do you measure and report on those? And the last point, I think both Ryan and James have said it, you need to systemize how you do that. It's not as simple as just we give you dollars, you do these things. It's what's the result of that? Is it leads? Have those leads converted to opportunities? Have those opportunities closed? So you need to get into a situation where you measure the entire life cycle of whatever marketing activity that you're supporting. And again, I really say honestly, that's not as hard as it sounds. It used to be years ago, but there are a lot of really good ways to do that in the market today. And people like Ryan are actively doing that. So.
Okay, thank you. Next one then, I know we're running out of time, so we'll try and get to this quickly. Does your MDF program offer third-party marketing agencies or activities? Apologies. So yeah, pretty similar there.
Yeah, no, it's higher than, sorry Brenda to interrupt. Yeah, no, that yes is higher than I expected by a good bit. Again, that's something that's definitely is definitely growing, the whole marketplace of activities. And finding those right agencies to support your programs takes a bit of time, and it depends. James kind of answered this. It depends on the vertical, it depends on the markets you operate in, and can you find those right local providers to do that service. And that's really important that those partners get that local level of support to be successful.
Okay, thanks, Kenneth. The next question then was in relation to the frequency with which companies were adjusting their programs. So here's the result. So yeah, 61% only adjust the program annually, 16% quarterly, 11% never, and 0% monthly.
Yeah, my reaction, yeah, I just thought quarterly would have been a bit higher. We would see a lot of, and that could be down to people having the tools in place to do it. May not have it systemized, so it's just left to annually. But I think you do need to react a bit more often than annually. I don't know if the panel have any thoughts on that.
I think it depends on the level of change, doesn't it? You know, major changes you can release annually, I think, which we're just about to embark on. But if you've got those smaller changes, maybe, as I call it, the speedboats that you're deploying from your cruise ship, those could perhaps be quarterly. Some of those smaller improvements or enhancements.
Yeah,
Great.
I agree. I think it depends on the scale of changes. I mean, how big that change, right? Because if it's a major change, then you'll take a lot of time as well to kind of communicate that and make sure that all the partners are clear and aware of changes. And that's too frequent, and it can be quite confusing.
Yeah, true, very true. Yeah, good point, Michelle.
Okay, and then this was just the last poll. Does your MDF program support a marketplace of activities to partners? So 39% yes, and 41% are saying no.
And again, it's definitely a growing trend. So, I think that 39% will be, significantly increased in a year's time as well. It's certainly a trend.
Okay, thanks, Kenneth. Okay, I have a question here for Michelle. Michelle, this one is from Stephanie, and Stephanie says, which are the new media you are talking about regarding MDF activities? Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, I think definitely one area that is, of course, of increasing importance today is digital media, right? Like social media, and in some countries, even mobile marketing is very common and very popular. So these are some of the new trends that's evolving and emerging, and should not be overlooked.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. Next one then, whoever wants to take this one is from Christina, and she asks, what recommendations do you have to convince accounting and finance to plan on a 12-month basis instead of a quarterly basis?
Yeah, I'll start and the guys jump in, but yeah, again, it does come down to ROI. If it's always difficult. That is, we touched on it at the very start. How do you convince finance to let you have MDF dollars on an ongoing basis? And you definitely need it, right? So I've been no doubt that MDF programs are successful if run in the right way. I've seen it at tens and tens of vendors, both doing them the right way and doing them the wrong way. But it generally will come down to being able to report. It's the old thing of, you can't manage what you don't measure. So if and James covered this really well in that snippet that he gave about setting it up, having systems, measuring it end to end, and you'll have no trouble off finance because you can show the return on investment and it will be significant. Finance won't have any beef with giving you the dollars.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point on the ROI bit there, Kenneth. And I think if you are still getting a finance team, my advice would be, pilot it. If you can clearly demonstrate that it is a far more effective way of generating good ROI, it's almost creating that business case for the finance team to say, actually, you're right, that does make sense. We need to think about medium to longer term planning and activity types rather than just this, constant quarter by quarter, focus.
Okay, thanks, James. So this is a good one from Casey, and apologies now I didn't pick it up earlier. Can you give us a definition of what you mean by proposal-based versus accrual-based programs?
So Ryan, do you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. So with proposal-based, I mean, technically what we mean is that, we hope a partner distributor would come to us, they've got a plan for how they can grow their business, and we can work on that together. So that's the proposal part, and then we would agree the dollars to be invested. So that's as opposed to an accrual basis on which you would expect a partner to be doing some business with you and get a percentage in return for doing that business. Proposal means you don't necessarily, you could start from zero business if your plan is strong enough. So it gives you that flexibility as opposed to an accrual basis. I think one of the big pitfalls with accrual basis is, you know, a lot of partners accrue not a lot. So what do you actually do with that? So it's another benefit of the proposal-based system that you can invest, you know, sufficient sums of money to generate a return rather than expecting partners to spend small amounts.
And just to add to that, even at the start of it, it's basically taking whatever dollars you previously had. So let's say you accrued, I don't know, I'll just say 0.25% of the partner revenue for MDF, and that came out to be, I'll just say 500k. Generally speaking, that 500k in an accrual-based program goes out to just the guys that generated the most revenue. Whereas proposal-based is you actually take that 500k, you offer MDF to all partners, you treat them all equally, and it gives you the opportunity to nurture the up-and-coming partners. And as Ryan described, then they can put in proposals. Now you can offer them activities to do, but you can also leave it open to let them come in with their proposals as well as your driving activities outward. They can come in with proposals inward.
Okay, thanks, Kenneth. I know we have gone over time, so our apologies, and I'm just going to go with one more question. Just ask the panel, are you familiar with a mixed model whereby the supplier pays X amount of the cost and the partner pays X amount too? The idea is that they have skin in the game. So have any of you got involved with that?
Yeah, I'll jump in first, Brendan, and the guys can as well. So yeah, we call that joint JMF, joint marketing funding. And we would, you know, run those programs for somebody like Mitel, for example, use a JMF program. And again, it's kind of where you have, again, I'll just use my 500k, but the partners might only get 50%. So for certain activities, they have to put up 50% and you've to put up 50%. And it is, the idea behind it is they are more committed because they're spending some of their own dollars. And I don't know, does any of the panel want to chime in?
Yeah, it's certainly something that we see you know, fairly often, particularly for proposal-based MDF activities. What a partner might want to do, there may not necessarily be enough funding from the vendors to cover all of it. And I think it's healthy for the partner to have some skin in the game. I think another element to also consider is that a collaboration between different technology vendors, you know, is also something to consider. And sometimes partners bring that to the table in terms of their proposals. There is a really nice fit maybe between two complementary technologies that have a technology alliance program already, and it enables a sort of larger, more longer term and potentially interesting projects to be created and run.
Great.
One thing I'd say about that, Kenneth, just from a practical perspective, is you think about, is that going to be a soft enforcement or what I would call a hard enforcement? So the soft enforcement would be local marketing and channel teams saying to the partner, hey, how much are you going to put in? Let's go in together. And it's kind of upfront and agreed, versus the hard enforcement on the back end, which is you've got a system that prevents you from asking for more than 50% or, you know, a certain percentage of an activity. And I think the preference would always be for that soft. For me personally, that soft approach. We don't have a hard approach, but we did some analysis and found that the majority of activities were co-funded, even though there's no real centralized program enforcement of that. It's something that local marketing are already doing with partners.
No, makes sense. Yeah, absolutely makes sense. Okay, so again, I know we want to be respectful to people's time, so I'll call it at that. And I just want to say thanks to James, to Michelle, and Ryan. Thanks very much, guys. It's really brilliant information. So thanks for sharing all your wealth of experience, and I'm sure there's tons more you guys could bring to the table. So thanks on behalf of Channel Mechanics, and I'm sure the audience for giving us your time today.